Hi everybody and happy Monday. It's your friend Ryan Rolfe with the DSM Soul team at Keller Williams Legacy Group here in Des Moines in Central Iowa. And it's Monday once again. That means it's time for Monday Market Update. 2 weeks left in 2025. And then we are getting our start in 2026, if you can believe that. So we're in the couple of holiday weeks before the end of the year. Some folks have already started celebrating with Hanukkah over this past week. So certainly as we get into the last couple of weeks of the year, we tend to see the market kind of go like this and really soften. A lot of that's because of the holiday season, the weather, so on and so forth. If you're looking at what's happening in the market, though, interest rates, those are continuing a downward trend just ever so slightly. We inched down from 6.22% to 6.21% on average. That's the 30-year average, and that is the national average. So we tend to see rates be a little bit lower here in central Iowa. With that rate, though, it means about a $2,000 principal and interest payment is going to get you about $326,000 in-house. Now, that's not including taxes and home insurance, so bear that in mind. Thinking if the rate number gets into the fives, that will likely climb. So we'll likely, that number will certainly climb, but we'll also likely see more, more folks purchasing as rates come down. And if things continue, this year has kind of been a little bit like this, but it has been on that downhill slope compared to prior years. We'll see if that continues into the new year. Pendings and closings are fairly even with previous years. There's been a little bit of a bump in closings over the previous years. We're at that 13,500 number. May get to 14,000, but pretty unlikely, I would say, just based on the last 2 weeks of the year being the holidays. So that we're basically looking at any closings that have been set within the last 6 to 8 weeks or more, new construction or resale homes that are closing right at the end of the year. Days on market, that's trending up a little bit, and we'll see if that continues. Tends to be towards the end of the year and at the beginning of the year, the days on market is when are going to be the longest because there's less folks out looking. So a lot of that depends on what happens with interest rates and again, kind of what happens with the weather. Typically, as the weather warms up, as we get to that mid-February point, we move into more of that spring market start. So it does come on fairly quickly. A lot of that's dependent on weather, though. Overall, if you look at the market, though, we're in more of a buyer's market right now overall. Now, that's everything from the low to the high. So that's not taking into consideration, any price ranges or neighborhoods or anything like that. We're looking at the metro overall. We're in a buyer's market. That just means buyers have the upper hand right now in your specific neighborhood, your specific price point. It could very well still be an even market or a seller's market. We're looking at the market overall in this picture. So overall, we're in a buyer's market and we'll likely continue into that into the first couple of weeks into 2026. That tends to be the trend, and then we'll move back into an even market. And the big question is, will we stay in an even market or will we get back into a seller's market as we get to the spring at some of those price points? Some of the higher price points will tend to stay in even or maybe even a buyer's market into 2026. So we'll see what happens with time. Big thing is this year we've had tons of price reductions. So when we've been meeting with our clients, we're not only showing them sales things that have sold to help them price their home, we're also showing them what's active on the market, what they're going to be competing against. Because the biggest thing to focus on, especially in an even market or a buyer's market, or really in any market, but especially since the market has changed, is how are we priced and positioned against our competition? What are we doing that's making us stand out? And the biggest thing there is making sure that we're priced appropriately, because we can't really just set a price here and keep going down and down and down, because then that days on market number is going up and up and up. And the longer we're sitting on the market, the less likely we are to get, one, what you want as a seller, but two, the less likely we are to get the home sold in the time frame that you're wanting. Because as things sit longer, folks tend to think, what's wrong with this house? Why is it not selling? And it could just be the price. So if you're a seller thinking about selling in early 2026, the biggest thing is starting the price off at the best possible number from day one. We've definitely had some clients that have been looking at properties, and when looking at the pricing of those properties, they maybe even seemed a little bit low compared to what they maybe could have been in spring. And that was because those owners wanted to get their homes moved quickly. So they priced ahead of the market, knowing that, okay, we're likely going to get an offer quicker to help us get from point A to point B what we need to achieve. So that's certainly important if you are a seller. And as a buyer, you may have more negotiating power, especially in the beginning part of the year. So with that, take that into consideration when you're making an offer, and know that that may not continue throughout the entirety of 2026. We may see things shift back into more of the seller's favor, or kind of level that playing field in an even market. So time will tell what is to happen there. Biggest thing, if you're a seller, make sure that you're pricing ahead of the market and standing out against your competition. And as a buyer, negotiating for what's best for you, and making sure that that you're taking into account what's happening in the market when you're making those offers. So if you want a quick game plan on what that might look like for you, whether you're selling or buying, for a specific neighborhood and price point, feel free to reach out to us. We're always happy to help, and I would love to answer any questions about that. This week, we aren't going to go over what happened over the weekend, since things have started to slow down a little bit. Those numbers don't really show a whole lot of anything, so we'll leave it at that. Thanks everybody for watching, and have an amazing week. We'll see you next time. Bye.